We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Thanks to Eric yesterday for joining us. And now we go down further south. Jace from Texas is with us today. Welcome, Jace.
Hey man, thanks for having me, Mike. I guess I had to. You had one bald brother to another. You had back to back bald brothers on the show. So thanks for having me on.
Well, I don't exactly have a glorious mane either. So and we're not being prejudiced against people with a full head of hair. We do have people with a full head of hair that comes on from time to time. Just
Not
not
everybody's perfect.
No, not everybody's perfect. There's a lot of stuff to talk about and some kinds of different stuff. Of course, we got everything with Donald Trump. We've got the courts. We've got Kamala Harris. We got a lot of things going on. But a couple of things I wanted to bring up that are kind of off the norm for us, but I think are of note. Uh, First of all, the big story yesterday we've been hearing about is this situation where pagers were going off that exploded and killed some people and maimed some people. And it's being said that Israel is behind this, and the intent was to impact Hezbollah. Now, this whole thing just sounded off to me. First of all, pagers. Who uses pagers anymore? But apparently terrorists do because they're harder to track. And then I was thinking, well, a pager can't just blow up and kill you or hurt you. Somebody had to have the pagers and put something in it, but that's not necessarily true, is it? It's the lithium battery that is volatile if it's triggered some way. And for whatever reason or however they did it, whoever set this up, assuming it might be Israel, they can literally take a pager and do something to it remotely to cause it to explode and hurt you. That's a fucking terrifying prospect.
Yeah, but was it like one pager in the area or a multiple pagers? I've kind of read a little bit about it.
Yeah. It was, well, let me just get to it here. It was like hundreds of pagers that went off.
Yeah,
Um,
because I was reading on it and it said pagers, and I had to kind of guy. I looked at it kind of twice. Are they talking about pagers, or is that like a new name, like new slang for a bomb? But to be able to do that, I mean, God, that's real scary. Because I mean, how many? I mean, pagers aren't really used here, like you said, but God, there's so little that. I mean, who would think about to do that? I mean, I never thought that something that small could cause that much damage. Evidently, it can.
well, here's what it says. At least nine people were killed and 2,800 wounded in an attack
Wow.
that targeted pagers held by members of Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah across Lebanon on Tuesday, according to the country's health minister. Iran's ambassador to Lebanon was one of those injured, according to the Iranian state. How it happened. The explosives were planted next to the battery in each pager. Okay, that is helpful to know that. And that's what I initially thought. And then I thought, well, is it just the lithium battery? The explosives were planted next to the battery in each pager and a switch embedded to detonate them remotely, according to the New York Times. The devices detonated simultaneously after receiving a message. Okay, well, that's better to know. Initially, I thought there had to be something done to the pagers in order to explode simultaneously and to that extent. And then I was thinking, is it just the lithium batteries? Is it just something you can do digitally? Apparently, that's not the case. That's good to know because we all carry lithium batteries in our phones. And if
Yeah.
we're in a position to be in danger like that just because some crazy fucks wanted to do it, that's scary.
Well, I mean it. I mean, you think about them coming up with this idea that wouldn't think. I mean, who's had use for a pager in all these years?
Yeah.
And just think how if we use that to help people instead of kill and maim people. I know that it's kind of like the hackers. They're always ahead. They're always ahead of like it seems like the quote unquote good guys. I guess like they hack. They just come up with stuff that shit I wouldn't even think about doing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, the question here is Israel is alleged to have done this. These were pagers owned by Hezbollah, and apparently something had to be done to the pagers before Hezbollah got them.
hmm,
Is Hezbollah not careful about where they get their pagers from? What do they get them off fucking eBay or something? Because I mean, Jesus Christ, if I'm a national or international terrorist organization, I'd be pretty careful. And I'm not saying I'm not glad that they weren't careful, but here's Israel alleged to do this. Hezbollah gets it. How does Hezbollah end up getting pagers by way of Israel? That seems crazy if you're at war with these people.
Well, it could have been, they either somebody didn't do their job or they had like a turncoat, maybe a mole inside. I mean, I hate to say James Bond like, but though, it could have been, a spy or, a turncoat that did that and caught them off guard. I guarantee you next time they're going to be ready because it's just going to, we hear about, how they're close to a peace, to the peace talks and everything. But, we both know that Netanyahu wants the war to continue because he's kind of like Trump with the election. He's got to, keep that going to stay out of prison.
Yeah, for all the talks of peace talks that Biden's talking about, that even Hamas wants to deal with, Netanyahu will entertain it, but ultimately will deny it because, as you say, he's in trouble. He's committed multiple crimes. He is bound to go to prison when he's out of power. And as long as this war is going on, he's kind of safe. This is not unlike Donald Trump running for president. He's a little bit untouchable while he's in the process of a war, or Donald Trump is in the process of an election. And once that war ends, Netanyahu's got some problems, and he has no motivation to come to any peace agreement in this situation.
Well, what was it they were protesting him? All those people were protesting him a few weeks ago. I think the people are, on that side are also getting kind of tired of all the bullshit going on. They live in a war daily.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't remember what they were protesting. They were protesting something where we're like thousands of people out there. It was, there's so, like you said, there's so much shit going on in the world right now. You kind of lose track of what happened, but there were people that were, I think it was either students or, some people were out there protesting Netanyahu. I guess they want a peace agreement, I guess.
Well, here's the departure here, or the thing you have to take a look at. If in fact Israel was responsible for this, and I don't know if they've owned up to it or somebody just said they did, but if they are, whoever did this, let's say it's anybody, including maybe Israel, this isn't a war strategy. This is a terroristic attack. And I say terroristic because these explosions would impact innocent citizens. Yeah. And you would have to know that would encompass some innocent citizens. And for a country like Israel to do that, that's a bridge too far.
Would you say 9 were killed, 2,400 injured?
2,800.
And there were women and children,
Absolutely.
I have no words. It's something that's gone on for so long, and and God bless Biden for don't usually say it that much, for trying, but I don't know. I don't know, Mike. I'm kind of like you. I'm just a white guy with an opinion, but it's not something that I don't know. It's not something that I see resolving itself.
No.
If you believe the Bible, and the Bible talks about, the Antichrist, making peace and all that stuff. Well, if that's the case, we're a long way from that, because I don't think anybody, except maybe Donald Trump, because he alone can fix it.
Yeah, he can fix it.
He's going to make peace over there. I don't know, man. It's just, I haven't been really paying too much attention to that because there's so much shit going over here. But my heart's to them, and this is not going to help anything. This is going to just escalate it, because they're going to retaliate. Because every time one does one side, the other side does the other. It's been going on for forever before and it'll go on long after we're gone.
Right. Yeah, and I don't normally talk about that war in the Middle East, not because it's not important, but because I don't know a lot about it. It's really not my place to do that, and it's a no-win situation. Both sides have points. I mean, bottom line is Hamas is a terrorist organization, but unfortunately, we have collateral damage, that being the innocent Israelis and the innocent people in Gaza. They end up taking the brunt, taking the shots because two fuck ups want to continue to fight. The two I'm talking about are Hamas and Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a problem in this war, and as long as he's not motivated to end the war will not end, and we'll keep getting these sorts of things. We'll move on from that because
Well,
I don't. Go ahead.
but speaking of that, I just brought me, you see Senator Kennedy today questioning, they had those hearings, I guess, on some kind of like, he
Yeah,
accused this Arab lady. It's like, well, are you for Hezbollah? I mean, he pretty much called her, put her head in a like bag or something. I mean, it's like he just pretty much accused her because she wasn't Israeli, I guess, of being for the other side. I mean, this what's always kind of got me about Christians and evangelicals is that they're pro-Israel because they think when that's God's chosen people. But and I get that if you believe the Bible and stuff like that, but I'm old enough to remember when God created everybody. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You may call him different things, but what he said today, I mean, it's this typical Republican. I mean, it's just they just talk shit. I mean, he pretty much called her a terrorist. I mean, he pretty much, and she said, I didn't really read too much into it. I kind of, when that guy's involved, I think his name is he's Kennedy. I guess he's from Kentucky or something like that. He just, that good old boy with that draw, he's just
Which is fake because he's a
yeah,
Ivy League educated guy. Yeah, Kennedy's a piece of shit, and he basically asked, "You support Hamas, don't you?" That's how he worded it, and of course she doesn't. And it was a ridiculous question to ask her. It was a setup, and then, do you support Hezbollah? And she got kind of frustrated. Had I been in that position, I would say, well, you support Donald Trump, then are you supportive of insurrection and overthrowing the Constitution of this country? Sometimes you got to throw it back in their face. I don't like this guy. He's a phony. He's a Trump humper. And I'm hope he's one of the people that we ultimately get rid of because he is fucking despicable. Absolutely despicable. Let's move on from that because I don't know enough about it. I don't think either one of us know enough to speak too intelligently about it other than what we've seen that's been reported. Another subject that's kind of off my realm too, but I think it's important to talk about. The other big story yesterday was Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, I wouldn't normally talk about this because it does. I don't know that it has any political ramifications, but I think it could, and I think there's an interesting comparison. Now, we know Sean Combs had his home raided or homes raided, and obviously a lot of things were grabbed out of there. Uh, Sean Combs was suspected of sex trafficking, racketeering, and all kinds of fucking crazy stuff. Well, yesterday he was arrested, and it sounds like he knew it was coming because he came from someplace else, Miami, to New York to get this done instead of being dragged out of there. But the interesting thing about it is that the prosecution said we are asking for a $50 million bail. Okay, but the judge said fuck that, no bail. You're going to jail. So Sean P. Diddy Combs, is in jail right now waiting for trial in his sex trafficking and racketeering cases. Now, over and above those two indictments, the charges in it are everything from kidnapping to sexual abuse to sexual trafficking to physical abuse to fucking arson. What this guy was in essence was organized crime. He was or is a crime boss. And things are going to start coming apart at the seams for this guy. This guy's done. He's going to fucking jail. There's no question about it. He's going to be found guilty, and he may appeal it and do all this shit. But the problem is, and this is where the parallel for me is, it sounds a lot like Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, because of all the things he was doing, underage women, underage men, the abuse, all the crazy shit, the organization, the criminal organization. But more importantly, just like Jeffrey Epstein, he had video of everything. And when they raided his house, you know they grabbed that video. And like Epstein, there's likely to be some famous people, some wealthy people, some powerful people, maybe some politicians. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Does it play out like Epstein, where he goes to jail and whoops, he ends up dead? The thing about it is, there's other people that are tied to the crimes here, and there's likelihood that because it's racketeering and conspiracy, there are other people that committed crimes that will likely be indicted, and there are probably a bunch of people that are cooperating. So this is going to be a fucking mess.
Yeah, I heard them talk about other people involved. I guess the RICO charges, because there was like maybe some kind of conspiracy going on.
Yeah,
I guess that comes up when you have more than one person involved
right.
to do crime. I don't know how he wasn't in prison and locked up for what he that video of what he did to his girlfriend, where he was
Right.
like in the towel dragging her down the hall. I mean, I don't know how he's not in jail for that. And it's just, I mean, it's just another thing about private preferential treatment. I mean, like it's like I I don't know. It's like how did he stay out of prison so long with all this going on? But like Joe Schmo would have been locked up. Me or you would have been locked up. It's just kind of more special treatment that like Trump got.
Well,
I don't know.
that's exactly right. Trump committed crimes, and we know the crimes he's committed that he's been indicted for and he's being charged with. But the fact of the matter is, we know that Donald Trump has committed these crimes for
Yep.
decades and decades. And we're finding out that Sean P. Diddy Combs has committed crimes for decades and
Yep.
decades. And there's probably untold other wealthy and powerful people that continue to commit crimes for decades and decades. What's the common thread here? Money and power. You have money and power, you get special treatment. I don't care what the fucking DOJ says.
Yeah.
There are people above the law, and we see proof of it every fucking day.
Yeah. And it's like I mean, it's even I, it happens to the celebrities all the time. It's like, I guarantee you why that judge probably didn't give him bail is because he's probably at flight risk. You don't
Oh,
think he didn't? I mean, I'm surprised he didn't try to go already. But I
well,
mean, they arrested his kids, his son, I believe,
right.
before him. And why? Because his son wasn't P. Diddy, I guess.
Well,
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about the guy. I'm not, I know who he is from, seeing him and stuff like that. But I mean, he sounds like a bad dude. I mean, I just don't know how you can be. I mean, I guess I'm naive to think that people that bad are still among us, but I guess so because it's like another secret. It's kind of like Epstein. Everybody knew about it was happening, but nobody, stood up or did anything about it until they pretty much had to.
well, here's a National Enquirer type question. I'm not suggesting it means anything, but whenever you look at a situation, you got to look at all aspects. You know that Sean P. Diddy Combs, for a time, dated Jennifer Lopez.
Yes,
And there was an incident with a gun where Jennifer Lopez and
it's like
that whole fucking mess. Well, then Jennifer Lopez, of course, married Ben Affleck for a second time, and just recently, they're in the process of a divorce. Now, immediately people think, well, Affleck's drinking again, he's a dickhead. Or is there some tie to P. Diddy from the past that is showing up in this situation? And I'm not saying she did anything, but if you're standing there in the middle of a crime, at the very least, you could be a witness that's going to be tied up for a long time and maybe go through some serious fucking problems with things being exposed that you were involved in or at least witnessed. I don't know. That this may sound crazy, but I think that's how far-reaching this is.
yeah.
There's a lot of people involved in this, a lot of famous people, and I'm sure those famous people are starting to shit their pants.
I mean, I don't know much about P Diddy, but I do know I did know, especially down here in Texas, out of Austin, Lance Armstrong and all
Yeah,
that shit he did, and how I must admit that well he beat the test, he beat the test,
yeah,
and that motherfucker was guilty as hell.
yeah.
But I do know that he was engaged to Cheryl Crow, and I do know that she did leave him because they were going to make her an accessory. if she did not. And I believe she testified. She did the right thing and got out of there.
Wow.
And I believe what I always heard about Jennifer Lopez is that shit happened with the shooting, I guess, and then she said fuck this and she was gone because she dumped him like yesterday's news.
Yeah.
And if she did that and she got out of there in time, good for her.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
mean, yeah, I mean it yeah, it seems like these people, I mean, it happens. I mean, to go back to Trump. I mean, everybody around him is getting arrested. All those, all those people. I mean, it's like he's a felon and he hangs out with other felons. So I always thought that two felons couldn't hang out
You
together, but
yeah,
it's happening now.
you can't do it and nothing's been done. I've my contention with with Donald Trump is that everybody's standing on tiptoes and walking on eggshells until after the November 5th election. Everybody's so frightened about, oh, it might look political. What they don't realize is by not trying to act political, they're being fucking political. They're doing just exactly what they're afraid to do. That's why I get this feeling that on November 5th, when the election's done, Donald Trump gets his ass kicked. I'm standing by that. I don't care what anybody fucking says. The facts say he's getting his ass kicked. So I'm going to stick with that. But once that happens, there's going to be like almost a waterfall of shit coming because there's nothing to hold them back anymore. I think we'll be surprised what comes down on Donald Trump and what will be exposed that we knew nothing about, even though we know a lot right now.
And what fucking pisses me off about it is that Trump gets out there and and the Republicans try to say that it's the Democrats' rhetoric. I guarantee you, Biden called Trump after the first assassination attempt. Kamala called him after the second one. You fucking think that orange turd would have done the same thing? Sorry, excuse my French. I know that you
No,
don't like the cussing,
oh yeah, I'm
but
really against the cussing.
it's bullshit. I mean, it's like I saw last night on CNN. There's some guy on there, and I don't watch CNN. I just saw it on TikTok where he was saying, "Well, Democrats need to, do their rhetoric down," and it's like the Democrats aren't doing it. All the Democrats are doing is just calling him out for the truth.
Well, that,
It's like they're saying this stuff, and I see all these Democrats besides Joe and Kamala that are pussyfooting around. I
yeah,
mean, it's like those two. No, they're holding him. They don't have to go low, so to speak. All they got to do is tell the truth about that guy.
and all they got to do is let him talk because he
Yes,
exposes himself every time. But you're right. J.D. Vance was talking on stage and he was saying, they say things like, well, Donald Trump, there's been two attempted assassinations and none on Kamala. So clearly it's the Democrats coming after
but he
after
doesn't know that. He doesn't know that.
we know
He
that the
doesn't know what
both
the Secret Service knows. There's attempts probably all the time that we don't fucking know about.
right, and we know the
You know,
two people who did involved in this were in fact Republican type of people. Crazies, yes, but they were more leaning Republican than they were ever Democrats. Um, and that's what he says. The Democrats got to tamp it down a little bit. Well, that's what you would love. See, this is what the Republicans, they want to say whatever they want to say to you, and they want you to cow away and not say anything back. That's how bullies win. Now that the Democrats are pushing back like they should, they don't know what to do with that because they're cowards at heart. Here's what I want to tell. I told folks on TikTok. I said, listen, because JD said the Democrats want Donald Trump dead. I can't speak for all Democrats, but I can speak for myself and a lot of other people I know. We don't want him dead. We don't want him getting shot. We don't want him getting sick and keeling over. I want him to go to the November 5th, get his ass kicked, and then start the process of being held accountable. I hope he lives a long and healthy life in court, in jail, without money, suffering like the suffering he's inflicted on everybody else.
oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I just like you said, what Trump's, it's like, you know, it's like they get, you know, with Trump almost got assassinated, but Republicans love their guns.
Yeah.
They get upset about somebody trying to shoot a president, but they offer thoughts and prayers when it happens to a school.
Yeah.
And like you said in that TikTok when JD Vance, that's this America we live in.
Yeah.
And then Trump says, well, we need to get over it. I mean, he said that like right after it happened.
Right.
But they're not the first Republicans to say that.
No,
You know,
and so if you want us to be sympathetic to Donald Trump or the Republicans, sorry. You have no sympathy for anybody. You don't seem to be worried. I mean, Donald Trump said after they hauled this guy out of there and got this straightened away, he said, "I'd really like to finish the hole." This
he's
motherfucker's
not
not
taking it
worried.
seriously.
He
No.
wasn't even supposed to be there that day. He wasn't even on his schedule to be there. He said, "Fuck it, I want to play golf like he does every day."
Yeah, and JD Vance, the wonderful, compassionate man that he is, was saying something today about. I read something that he said that if Kamala gets elected, she wants to bring back slavery or something like that. And I'm like, God, how desperate are these people getting? I mean, I know the answer.
Yeah.
They say all this stuff, but we're supposed to, Democrats are supposed to calm it down. No, Democrats don't need to calm it down. All the Democrats need to do is tell the truth about those two. And
Yeah.
the truth is bad enough. They don't have to make shit up like the Republicans do.
No, no. I mean, Donald Trump has so many flaws and so many problems. Just one little thing. They fought against Joe Biden because he wasn't cognitively sound, that he was slowing down. I told you before we went on, we saw what happened in the debate. The guy is obviously losing it, but he was in some interview today with
Sarah Sanders.
Sarah Sanders, that goofy fuck. And he was talking about energy and how he did so good with increasing oil production, which is weird because there's more oil production now than ever before, more than he did. But he says, "Yeah, we got this big oil field." He normally says Anwar. He meant to say Anwar up in Alaska, but he mixed it up, and he did it twice. He didn't say Anwar. He said Bagra, which is, fucking A. I mean, this guy says it over and over again, and he still can't remember the name of the area. It's a bullshit comment by him, but he can't even keep his lies fucking straight.
No, they were doing that, and he said something about it was in Michigan. They were in Michigan, so he was saying, "Well, you don't elect me. The auto industry is going to go down, and in 3 years it'll be down." And then he goes, "Yeah, they're going to kill the oil industry because everything going to be electric cars." I mean, we're headed towards electric vehicles anyway. That's nothing that the Democrats are doing. That's just science. It's technology is not here yet, but it's getting there.
It is getting there, and
And
I'm a Democrat. I'm not ready to buy an electric car because I
oh, me
live in a
neither.
very cold climate, and it's not conducive. I wouldn't mind buying one when we had places to charge them up, and when the cold is no longer a big issue to the charging of batteries. We've got some time to build these, and I've seen a couple of those Tesla trucks around. And since I don't consider myself a douchebag, I won't be getting one of those trucks. But
They're ugly.
it's just all threats and fear that Donald Trump is trying to inflict, and he's done it over and over for years, and people are just getting tired of it, and they're not believing him anymore. Even Republicans are going, "Fuck's sake, come on."
Well, that's what gets me about him is that the Republicans are walking freaking. They're walking freaking oxymorons. I'm trying to say a better word.
Yeah,
He sits there and he rags on electric vehicles. Who's the biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles out there? Elon Musk.
yeah,
So Elon Musk is in bed with Donald Trump, the one guy he should not be running for president just because based on business.
right.
And supposedly, I read it on Threads today that Elon Musk, the Secret Service, is aware of the tweet he made, pretty much insinuating, well, why isn't anybody trying to assassinate Biden and Harris? Well, I guess he deleted the tweet, but the dumbass put it up there in the first place. And we all know the internet's forever.
The
So
internet's
evidently, he may
forever.
be getting a visit from the Secret Service because honestly, the Secret Service has got to be taking this shit literally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I think Biden said something that he's going to take some Secret Service off him because he's not traveling as much and put it more on Trump. You think Trump would do that for Biden?
I'd take some off me and put it more on Kamala.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
because if we're looking at people taking pot shots at presidents or presidential candidates, clearly the Republicans are more of a threat than Democrats. We haven't seen a Democrat take a shot at Donald Trump. They are hardcore Republican. Now, well, I'll say, I get people coming to me and saying, well, he donated to such and such charity. I don't even know if that's true. I don't know where that comes from. I've been trying to track it down. But in 2016, this Ryan Ruth guy, he voted for Donald Trump, then became disappointed in Donald Trump, which isn't surprising because I know Melania, his mom, and his dad, and his kids are all disappointed in Donald Trump. That's just who Donald Trump is. So then in 2020, he supported Tulsi Gabbard, technically a Democrat back in the day, but she's no more a Democrat than Joe Manchin. In fact, she's less a Democrat. And Hillary Clinton thought she was a Russian asset, and she's proved that's probably true. And now, this time around in 2024, he's voting for Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. So, even though he may not like Donald Trump, he's still Republican, and you can see why he wanted to take a shot at Donald Trump, assuming, crazily, if he could take out Donald Trump, then maybe Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley would rise to the top. That's
Well,
not crazy.
I never thought about that part about that because when I heard he was a Nikki Haley supporter, it's like, well, she's dropped out, but that makes sense right there. Yeah, it's everything Republicans do is I can't think tonight, Mike. Is putting projecting. It's like
Absolutely.
everything they say is like the Democrats do is what they do, and it's like this whole shit with this whole shit with these stuff in Ohio with these supposed migrants eating animals. They're here legally because they can't get workers to do that.
Right.
And their governor was on somewhere. Their governor, who's a Republican, who sometimes has good thoughts on his mind, where he was when they weren't going to put Biden on the ballot. I think you had a guest on there from Ohio was saying, well,
Yeah.
no, he's saying that's going to happen. But they asked him about that. He goes, what do you think about them doing that? Do you think, well, I don't want to get political. Well, it's like you said, Mike, not saying anything is already being political. That's
Right.
that's that's the people that vote for you and they're your constituents. They're JD Vance's constituents too, and he's attacking them.
Right.
And it's just like, and they're here legally. They did the process and everything, and they still get attacked.
Well,
What does
that's
that tell you? What does that tell you about why they're getting attacked? It's
right.
not their legal status, and it's the same thing down here in Texas.
Yeah. The thing is, the governor in Ohio is Mike DeWine, I believe his name is, and he's a goofball Republican too. I don't know if he's trying to do the right thing, but you see Donald Trump talking about how, and JD Vance talking about all this Democratic rhetoric that's violent related. They're talking about that. All the while, they continue to double down on this situation in Ohio. They, that's the crazy thing about it. Donald Trump spewed it out on the debate. And the only reason he spewed it out on the debate is because he was flailing. He was panicking. He was grabbing at anything. And nobody imagined he would grab it at that thing and become an absolute joke. So that goes out. Everybody says, yeah, that's not true. There's proof that it's not true. But Donald Trump, J.D. Vance cannot ever admit they're wrong. They can never step back. So they double down and triple down, thinking they can shove it down people's throats and they will actually believe it. Well, that's fucking stupid. So while they're accusing the Democrats of violent rhetoric, we've got Haitian immigrants in Ohio that are hiding in their homes because they're
Ridiculous.
afraid of being attacked for doing fucking nothing. These people thrive on violence, thrive on fear, and then they try to project it back on the Democrats. Thank God nobody's buying it.
Well, you saw I guess the people of Springfield, Ohio went there and they were supporting, I guess, some of the restaurants they had there. And you think about those, their kids have to go to school and kids have a hard enough time in school already with the bullies.
Yeah.
And this shit happens. The kids that are bullies in school are just representative of their parents. So it's I don't know. I hope there's enough outrage by people that are even Republicans. But I tell you, I know a few Republicans that just ignore this because if there's a D next to the name, I just can't vote for them, and they'll vote for anybody. You're going to have those people too. Those are going to be people that show up for Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like I'm hoping that I don't understand how you can be in a party that only represents a minority and it's not getting any better. And that's the white race. You
Right.
have a lot of interracial marriages and that is getting bred out. The white race is getting bred out. And you have a lot of people that may have been racist, but they have a grandchild that's mixed race. That changes the way they look at things.
And if
And
there's any,
Oprah Winfrey said something a few years ago about how we're just going to have to let that older generation die out.
yeah, pretty
I
much.
think we're getting there because a lot of, like you said, a lot of boomers have passed away since 16 and 20.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was for COVID because, listening to their orange Jesus that it was a hoax.
Yeah.
A few of
Did
them
you
probably put bleach in them. I don't know.
did you hear about this interview? If there's any
Yes, I.
question whether or not the Republicans are racist, people say we're
Nope.
not racist. Yeah, you are motherfucking racist. They had this guy Rich Lowry. He's a writer and a Republican, radical right Republican. He was being interviewed by Megyn Kelly, who's another nutcase, on Sirius. She's not on the network anymore. She's on Sirius. Um, and she was talking to him about the Haitian situation. And she reiterated what JD Vance said. Yeah, I make up shit just to make my point. That was the dumbest fucking comment I've. Here's a guy that didn't know what to say, and he said the absolute wrong thing. JD Vance, when he said, "If I have to make up stories to get the media to be concerned about this," Jesus Christ, you just cut yourself off at the knees. But this guy responded, and he was talking some shit, and he was supporting JD Vance and the bullshit. And then he said he starts saying something. He starts with Haitians. He says Haitians, and then he said the N word, and then he said immigrants. Now, when I heard about this, I thought maybe he slipped something, and maybe it sounded like it. It was kind of close. He said the fucking word,
Oh, he
front
did.
to back, hard R, everything involved. He said it, and then of course Megyn Kelly didn't say a word. I mean, if I'm interviewing somebody and they come out with the N word, I'm going to call that shit out because if I don't, people are going to think I'm in favor of it. Then when he was asked about it, I didn't say that. Well, motherfucker, it's on video. You did say it. And I'm not saying you didn't have a slip of the tongue, but here's the deal. We all have slips of the tongue, but it's maybe using words that we use on a regular basis, not a word that's kind of a red herring that we never use. You don't accidentally come up with that word. That tells me this guy uses that word in conjunction with Haitians frequently, or maybe just prior to that event. So I hope people see that and understand they're telling you they didn't do it, but there it is right there on video. You fucking did it. And you should address that and apologize for it. But they will never apologize. They will never step back from it. They'll just continue to say, I never said it.
Well, Megan Kelly is a perfect audience to have it for because she was on NBC and she got fired for, I guess, allegedly, for saying that. I remember she did something one time. I think maybe she was like after that or something, and she just had to tell everybody that I guess there was it was a non-white Santa Claus, and she just had a fucking cow over that. Well, everybody knows Santa's white. Really? Kind of like Jesus? I mean, come on, man. I mean, yeah, she got let go for NBC for that, and for her, because I remember she was on. I used to watch her when she was on Fox. She was between, I guess, she's between Bill O'Reilly and Hannity,
Right.
so she looked sane. She gets out of that Fox bubble, goes NBC, she gets exposed. It's like Bill Maher always said that because Bill Maher has guests on that you may not agree with. You got to shine the light on the cockroaches.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And, it's something that, that it's something that's not a bigger deal than that's happening is because the media, corporate media, has normalized it. They have normalized this Republican thing. And it's like, we are shocked. We hear that and we're like, oh crap. You know what I mean? You actually said that, and us people that are normal and not in the fringes of like the Republicans are. It's like, oh, because you're right, because he normally probably uses that word a lot. So she didn't even blink her eye. You know what I mean? And she had to hear it because she was closer than me or you were hearing on the video.
Right, right, right. And to be honest with you, uh, if me on this little old podcast was throwing around the N word, I'd get some serious shit about it. I don't have a boss, but I would be buried in negative comments, and justifiably so.
Yes.
I mean, I do swear a lot, and I do say some things that are pretty blunt, but there are limits. And the idea of even using that word never enters my mind because it's just fucking ridiculous. It's egregious. And Megyn Kelly at one point in 2000, remember she was at a debate where Donald Trump was the one of the debaters for the presidential thing, and he made those comments about blood coming out of her eyes and everywhere.
Wherever.
This is how people I've noticed have been co-opted by the MAGA group and Donald Trump. Donald Trump says that Ted Cruz's wife is ugly, but he stands by him. He talks shit about Lindsey Graham, but he stands by him. Megyn Kelly, he embarrasses her on national television, and somehow she's still co-opted by him, still drinking the Kool-Aid, supporting this piece of shit. It's really pervasive what's happened to these people in MAGA, that people are still buying the bullshit when it's so obviously horrific and horrible.
Speaking of my buddy Ted,
Yeah, you're down in Texas. What's happening there?
well, I am very optimistic about Colin winning. Um, I've noticed, like I said, there's an independent paper here it's pretty good. It's a website. It's called Texas Tribune, and they have events down here where they have speakers from both sides. They had Tribe Fest, I guess, a couple weeks ago with Rick Wilson was down here. Gretchen Whitmore, with the girl from the Michigan governor, and so they ran an article today. I was reading up on it, and they're saying that Republicans are getting a little spooked
Really?
because some of the races, especially down south, are getting a little too close for comfort. Trump has really appealed to the Hispanic community, which I don't get.
No, I don't get it either.
I'm a bald headed white guy, and Trump doesn't ever appeal to me. So it's
Right.
like, because I see that, and I'm like, well, how can you support that? And they look at me and like, well, how can you not support that? And I'm like, because I got a fucking brain. And but they said South Texas, which is, I'm in Central Texas, pretty much Austin, San Antonio Central. South Texas is kind of like down in McAllen where I grew up. You go down there, and my stepmom still lives down there, and I go down there, and you just see all these Hispanics, and they make sure they have Republican, Trump or whatever. But evidently, Kamala has increased, especially with like I guess the white men and the Hispanic men, are a lot of them are for Trump still. He
Yeah.
just proves that women are smarter than men. I'll admit to
Absolutely.
that.
I
And
I
and
have to say that. My wife told me to.
I'm not married, and I still say it. So hey,
Good move.
but yeah, but that's going on where she's getting a lot of them going, and they're having to spend money in Texas, which you know, and they better and Texans better get their head out of their asses because the Republicans, what they're doing now is they're trying to pass in the legislature. Dan Patrick, another winner, is wanting to pass something in the Senate to where they don't give the minority party, which are Democrats, a seat or any kind of position. They want this everything, which is it's funny to me, is because they're totally at war with each other because the House indicted Ken Paxton and the Senate overturned it, and the leader of the Senate was pretty much the grand, the judge of it. Who is that? Dan Patrick. So
Right.
conflict of interest only in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the Republicans see what's coming. I've heard people say, well, maybe 2028. I don't know if we have till 2028 because if Abbott gets the people in there and they get the vouchers, who evidently Betsy DeVos is like funding a lot of this money. They always like to talk about, Soros, but the Republicans are in trouble down here. Will it matter? I don't know. I thought Beto would have won. I think Beto should have won in 18.
Yeah.
I, I'm optimistic about Colin, but still, the back of my mind is we had the ice storms and the power outage, and we had Uvalde, and Abbott still won re-election.
Yeah. Well,
So that's just the thing that if it goes blue, hell yeah. But I think Colin's got a good chance. But like I said before, he hasn't embraced Kamala, but I think she may push him over because they're not gonna vote for Kamala then go vote for Ted Cruz.
no,
They're gonna vote
absolutely not.
down ballot.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to expand a little bit more on Texas. You talked about how they didn't go for Beto when you had Uvalde and the
Ice
grid
storm.
thing, but something else happened that may have an even a bigger effect on folks. That's going to change their mind. We'll make this a different situation. So, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Jace from Texas is with us. We're talking a little bit about Texas because Texas plays an important role in this upcoming election. Some people think it might flip blue, which would be crazy and would pretty much wrap it up for Kamala if if Florida and Texas both flip blue, fucking landslide. That's pretty much what's going to happen. But let's talk about Texas. You were saying you'd hope Beto would win, and there were a couple of things: the power grid failure, where it was just tragic in Texas, and people freezing without water and some crazy shit, and then Uvalde. And I think you said Uvalde was in 22, and
The
the grid was in 21.
Yeah. Well, what happened with Beto is he ran against Cruz in 18 and he came pretty close.
Right.
Then he ran against Abbott in 22 after the grid and after Uvalde the same year. And he won. Abbott won. And it just, to me, when he won and when Ken Paxton got past this, impeachment, they pretty much just said, "Hey, they feel like they got a mandate to do this shit," and that's what he's done. He feels emboldened now. I told my buddy that I go, when Abbott got this, I mean, what else has got to happen for people not to vote for him
Well,
or people to show up?
Well, I tell you what, in this particular instance in Texas, we're worried about the Senate seat and we're worried about the presidential election. Governor's not up for re-election at this point.
Nope.
But I've always said when it comes to politics, nobody reacts until it bites them personally in the ass. You have the Uvalde thing. It is horrific, but if you live in Dallas or if you live in fucking San Antonio, it may not have the impact on you. The grid would have an impact on you, but that was in 2021. What happened? What else has happened where it does bite a lot of people in the ass? Maybe as many as 75% of the people in that country or in that state. I know they want it to be a country, but it's only a state still. But is Roe v. Wade? I've said all along the big deal here for this election in every state, especially the red states that are outlawing abortion, is that Roe v. Wade decision to overturn it. Now, even though Texas is red, there's probably 75% of the people that support Roe v. Wade in Texas. This impacts 50% of the population, those being women, and beyond that, the men that support those women. believe it or not, I think this Roe v. Wade thing has more of an impact on voters, whether it be in Texas or any other part of the country, than even Uvalde and the grid thing. I'm not saying that's right, but that's how people think. It bites them in the ass. And these young people are seeing this and go, wait a minute, you're going to fuck me over? Uvalde, I don't live anywhere near Uvalde. And the grid thing was bad, but how often does it happen? This is going to impact me for the rest of my life. And I think that may be the thing that causes them to come out for once.
You could be right because our illustrious Attorney General Ken Paxton is trying to get medical records, I guess,
Yeah.
of something. What he's doing is that there's also these municipalities, I guess, and like these, they're trying to, I call them Barney Fives. They want to make it, well, if you're going to go to Nevada to get an abortion, you go through my district, I'm going to arrest you. I have the right to do that.
Yeah.
Probable cause be damned, is what the stop for. And you see these movies where, you go to these little podunk town, I guess, for lack of a better word, and you see these sheriffs and stuff and you see that stuff and you think Texas. I hate to say that, but Southern Man by Neil Young, that still happens down here. You have people in power that are proving that. They want to like go after your records. They want to keep women from having, there's a movement here. If the Republicans keep the Senate, they want to give death penalty to anybody involved in an abortion.
Yeah.
And they want to make that, not just in Texas. If you go to Nevada, you go to California, and then you come back home, they want to do that. But what
Well,
they don't understand is that people like doctors, regular care doctors, are going to leave
right.
because they don't want to put up with this bullshit.
Absolutely. Well, and is marijuana legal in Texas? I'm guessing not. Okay.
No.
So if what they're saying about abortion, it only makes sense that if I'm going from Dallas, Texas, and I'm going to Vegas to gamble, which might be illegal in Texas, and smoke some pot, can they stop me from going to Nevada? Because I'm going to commit what they would call a crime, but it's perfectly legal in Nevada. So if they can't do that, why would they be able to do that with regards to abortion? I mean, the fact that these women have to pack up, come up with the money, and leave the state to get this medical health care is fucking abhorrent. But then you want to arrest them for trying to take care of themselves? It's funny on TikTok. I don't know if you've seen this. This McEntee guy that used to work for Donald Trump. He's this smarmy little fuck, and he's always eating, and he's going, Kamala
Yeah.
talked about women bleeding out in parking lots. So
Yeah.
where are the women? Well, women over and over again are stitching that and saying, I'm right here. This is my story. Oh, I mean, this guy just owned himself in this situation. He set himself up to look like a fool, and these women are doing it. And when you watch these women, you're thinking to yourself, Jesus Christ, they need medical health care. And the doctors can't do it because they'll be criminally charged. And the government is saying, you're not sick enough. You're not close enough to death. Wait till then, and then we'll take care of you. This should not be happening in the United States. And this is why I'm thinking this Roe v. Wade thing is going to have a huge impact. We know it did in 2022. It will have even a bigger impact now that we're talking about presidents and senators and members of Congress too. It's going to have a huge impact because too many people are affected by it.
And I don't think what people realize, yeah, it's abortion now. It's marijuana now. But what's it going to be if they get their way with this in 10, 15 years? Or you're going to have
Exactly.
to go. You're going to have to go to church. I believe in what I tell people. I believe in freedom of religion, but I practice freedom from religion.
Right. And
I
you're
mean, but I mean the way Trump makes it sound, and I'm glad that they're still sticking this 2025 on him because I saw something that said 75% of voters identify 2025 with Trump. I mean the, it's what they want to do is they want to force us to believe their way of thinking.
Right.
Yeah, abortion may not be your way of doing things, but abortion isn't always about getting an unwanted pregnancy away. It's about the life it could kill the mother, you
Well,
know.
yeah,
But they never talk about that part. They always say, well, God wouldn't like that. Well, maybe God shouldn't let the girl get knocked up if you want to get technical about it.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is, they always talk about the Constitution as if it's sacrosanct, that it
Yeah,
cannot be changed. They say we're originalist. Well, that's ironic for a document that's already been amended how many fucking times?
right.
If you amend it, it's not being an originalist doesn't make any sense. But let's be honest, the people who came from Britain or Europe came to the United States and created the Constitution that we're living by right now. One of the very reasons they came here was for freedom of religion, that they weren't going to be forced to have to walk a certain line. They got out of that. It was the Catholic Church, I think, in Britain, and they wanted freedom of religion. So they come here to get that. They create the Constitution to base that, and now these fucks want to say, "Oh yeah, that part doesn't count. You got to go to church." That just doesn't work.
It's kind of like these people that you tell them, well, Trump's a felon. Well, those won't count. Those felonies don't count. Well, motherfucker, I don't know where you've been, but there's probably a lot of people in prison that think these felonies don't count. Guess what? They count.
Yeah.
And the thing about Texas is that I think I think the abortion thing is, and I'm thinking the overstepping is gonna hurt too,
Yeah.
because Ken Paxton, Bear County, and I guess Tarrant County, they're like the Bear County's like where San Antonio is. It's pretty much a blue county. Tarrant County's up around Houston, I believe, or Harris County. But the Republicans passed this thing saying that that like these municipalities like couldn't pass these laws without the state approving it.
Right.
Well, the Bear County had a thing to where all they did is they sent out voter registrations, not ballots, registrations. So Ken Paxton went after them and filed a lawsuit. Well, Bear County, they had their shit together. They already mailed them out. He tried to do it. They had a hearing on Monday. The judge goes, well, what's the point? They've already been mailed out. If because they're trying to push this thing to where they say illegals are voting. That's bullshit. Every time I go vote down here, I get my ID checked.
Right.
I bring my ID, and I don't have a problem with having to show ID.
No.
The Democrats in previous times have said, well, it keeps people from voting. I don't care. You have an ID, you show your ID. I think that's fair. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me I'm wrong.
Well,
But that keeps the illegal part out of it. That's not happening. The fraud that comes up with people doing it are mostly always Republicans that get caught,
well,
not Democrats.
I think the Democrats have a problem with the ID thing, mainly because I think you have to have an ID to register, but when you go to the polls and you're registered, I think the premise they work on is that it works against poor people who maybe don't have a car and don't drive or don't have the ability to get an ID, and then that kicks them out of the chances to vote. And while they may not have ID, but they are a citizen, they should still have a right to vote. The ID aspect of it, I don't know how to look at that. I have an ID, so it's no big deal to me. But I'm not a poor person of color who can't get enough money for food, let alone get a fucking ID. But I'm a citizen. I was born here. I shouldn't be precluded from voting just because I don't have the money or the ability to do it. And to suggest that everybody should have that ability just tells you don't understand how some people live in this country. They struggle. So it's a hard thing to decide. There's got to be an answer to it. I don't know what it is. The problem is the Republicans want to go with this draconian thing every fucking time. And I think, it's one thing for overturning Roe v. Wade. That's enough to lose them votes. But they can't help themselves. They double down. They make this stuff horrible, like these abortion bans and wanting to prosecute women who have abortions or follow them or track them as they go out of state. They've taken something that's very draconian and made it fucking worse. So this just causes more people to go, holy fuck, this is what they're doing to me. We got to stop it.
Yeah, and I think what my point was with the voter ID, they already have that here. You
Yeah.
have to have an ID to vote, but they're still harking on that shit that supposedly illegal people are going to vote, and it's like, well, they're when I go there and I've seen people, they have an ID, they're at the wrong precinct, they look them up, they're not on that list.
Right.
You
Right.
know why? Because they're not in that precinct.
Right.
You know why? If somebody came there and it's like they have the system. This isn't the 1800s where you have to go by hand
Right.
and write shit in and hanging chads. I mean, it's like they just. I mean, it's one thing to try to get the ballots kicked out, which I've never understood because that could be Republican ballots too. It's not just Democrat ballots. But when you don't want people to register to vote, what does that
Yeah.
tell you? It's the younger people they're trying to disenfranchise. They're trying to intimidate them.
Well, yeah, if we're talking, if in fact the abortion thing is a big issue in Florida and Texas, somehow, some way turn blue, okay? You make a good point, though. You've got somebody like Ted Cruz. If Kamala Harris wins Texas, no way Ted Cruz wins because he's a Trump humper. If they're voting against Donald Trump, they're voting against Ted Cruz. Same can
Yep.
be said about Florida with Rick Scott. If Florida turns blue, Rick Scott can't fucking win.
Nope. And I think Texas saw this coming because used to be able to vote straight party.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they took that away, and I didn't know back then why they did that, but it's like I look at it now and I go, that's why they did it because they probably saw somebody like a strong candidate like Kamala coming in. It's like, well, I'm not going to vote for them. I mean, there's more of a chance, I guess, in their minds to think they may vote Republicans if they can't vote straight Democrat, which is just another thing of. I mean, in Texas, it's just people don't vote. They don't show up. So I'm hoping, I with the once in a lifetime candidate like this. I mean, yeah, Obama, but I think Kamala is going to be bigger than Obama. I think that
I do
she's
too.
going. I just think that, like you said, we're to the point now to where oh wait, that was a long time ago,
Yeah, it was a
and
long time ago.
we had a lot of older, scared white folks that Roe versus Wade was not touched, all this stuff on, but now we go. Have you noticed how Kamala, like, she silenced the gun debate?
Yeah,
Oh, me and what's
Tim.
Tim, we own guns,
Yeah,
man. You don't hear anything about the thing anymore.
no.
I kind of when she said that, I kind of thought she may get some blowback from the left, but she's not talking about AR-15s. I don't think that the left hates guns as much as the right makes them out to, because there's a
No,
lot of people like Tim. I mean, he is the Republicans' worst nightmare because he's a progressive living in the Midwest.
right.
I mean, he's John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
There's more of them than people realize.
Well,
And I
there
think
is.
I mean, the Republicans are trying to go after him with the China stuff. I mean, and I see
Nothing.
them trying to do these stuff, and it's like, dude, you got like 2 months. You're not going to find shit
No,
because it's all
there
been
is.
Kamala and them have already done the vetting for him.
Well, that's the interesting thing about this. To me, it seems like everything's falling into place. When Obama came in and he was a black man who became president, that was weird. That never happened before, and Obama pretty much trampled the path for Kamala. And this is why I think Kamala will do better because she won't have the pushback or the problems that Obama have. And I think Kamala is a little more assertive than Obama. Obama was kind of feeling things out, and justifiably so, because he was coming into new territory. But when it came to having to replace Joe Biden and Kamala coming in, prior to that endorsement from Donald Trump, everybody was saying, well, I don't know if we're ready for a woman, a black woman at that. I'm not sure we're ready. But with regular people, race and gender don't even come into play anymore. Of course, the Republicans are trying to use it, and it's getting nowhere because the Democrats don't give a shit. We're more concerned about saving democracy than whether or not she's a woman and she's black.
Well, that's the thing about Joe Biden. I think history is going to judge him because, I mean, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say he's up there with, like, well, maybe FDR,
Yeah,
because you think about the 4 years he had and what he's done,
yeah,
and who's the bridge between Obama and Kamala? That's
right,
Biden. He's
right.
been in. He helped. Oh, and Obama, to his defense, he was a lot younger when he won than
And,
Kamala was,
and less experienced.
and less experienced, because he was like a community organizer, is what the Republicans called him.
Right.
And it's just like, I remember listening to Obama. I didn't vote for him, but I remember listening for him. And I think he kind of cracked, I think he kind of busted the whole stereotype of what a liberal is to me.
Yeah.
Because when I heard his speech, his first speech, he goes, you may not have voted for me, something like that. And he talked about that. And it's like, I was still listening to the Fox News stuff, and it's still, so I didn't vote for him either time. And I just remember listening to him and thinking, God, he makes a lot of sense and his stuff. And it really unnerved me because he was getting through to me and all the bullshit that I had listened to my whole life. How, Ronald Reagan, the Republicans have this, and Ronald Reagan had this, reputation for being the party of the working man. They don't support the working man,
No, never have.
and they were anti-unions. Who's anti-union? Big business.
Yeah.
So, and Obama was talking everything. And then when Trump became the nominee, I was like, there's no freaking way that I can support that. So I give Obama a lot of credit, and I give Joe Biden a lot of credit, because I think he helped Obama a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he helped Kamala a lot. And I
Oh,
think all we heard from the media is like, well, she's not ready, and she's fucking ready.
oh yeah.
And it's because she's been learning from him. Because I don't know, still don't believe he stepped aside on his own choice. I think he would have won,
Yeah, I
but
do
I don't
too.
think it would, may not be as decisive if he was still running. Who knows? History.
Well,
But
Obama picked or Obama
Biden,
picked Biden not because he wanted to win Delaware or that he
yeah,
needed Delaware.
exactly.
It wasn't because of that. It was because he was inexperienced. Joe Biden had a lot of international diplomacy. He'd been around for a number of years. He knew how to play the game of politics and in government. And there's where Donald Trump lost out. He thought he could play the game that was much bigger than he was, and we found out very quickly he didn't understand how to play politics, and he failed miserably. So it's interesting, like you say, the tie-in. Obama needed Biden in order to navigate through the system, as it were, and then Kamala is Joe Biden's vice president, the next black woman to become president, and much like Obama, in a different way, kind of learned under the tutelage of Joe Biden. That's why I'm surprised she doesn't say this. In 2019, they say, well, you said this and you didn't mean that. And they say, well, my values are the same. And I look at things. I would say, listen, I've been vice president for 4 years. I'm working under maybe one of the greatest presidents in my lifetime. I learned some shit. I realized some shit. That's what we need to do. We need to learn. And so now whatever I do now is based on what I've learned in the last 4 years. And I think that would be a good explanation. I don't know why she doesn't use it, but nonetheless, he
I don't know if
is the bridge.
I don't know if I heard somebody say this or if she said it, but she's learned more about fracking, I guess, than when she was
Yeah.
against it. She admitted, I guess I don't know if she said that or one of her campaign people said that. But yeah, I think history's going to judge Biden definitely a lot better than Trump. But I think Biden is really going to be looked up. I mean, he's already considered one of the, to me. I mean, people will talk about Bill Clinton in my lifetime, because first guy I've ever voted for. But Bill, it seems like Biden has done a lot in the 4 years. He didn't have two terms. Well, he should have had two terms, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I always think Biden made two mistakes. He got old and he hired Merrick Garland. So I mean, it's like,
There's one other mistake Biden made, and it ended up working out okay. But because of his age and because of mortality, he should have showcased Kamala more, at least
yeah,
during the last 2 years, to let people know who it is. And I'm not saying to give her the job as the candidate, but if I'm an old man and I'm going to be president, I want my people to be confident if the unforeseen should happen and I die, that whoever's taken over is a solid candidate. And they didn't
I,
do that, and they should have.
I think in a way they did because she did a lot of speaking
Yeah,
and she
true.
got better as an orator. I mean, she helped solidify the women vote. I think. I mean,
Yeah.
the women that would.
Black women, especially,
Yeah,
who voted for him.
exactly. That I think that her going off and doing these speeches. I mean, she was doing these before, but I think Biden was so busy thinking he's going to get another term that he didn't really do that, and maybe they should. But ever since she's been announced, she has been in the spotlight. You hardly hear anything about Joe anymore.
Right. It's true.
And it's like you hear Republicans like, "Oh, we got to go wake up Biden." Yeah, motherfuckers, because you couldn't beat him. That's why
Yeah.
you're fucking saying he's in the closet or in his cellar or whatever because you couldn't beat him. And I hope, like you were talking about that, I hope they get some shit done. And I saw something today
They
on
must.
Politico. I saw some stuff on Politico today, and I just pisses me off. I looked at the media. It was like these Democrats are worried, another January 6th, if the Democrats don't get the House. I think the House is pretty much guaranteed,
I think so too.
especially with if another shutdown comes around, because the Senate Republicans are getting mad because it's starting to make them look bad. And I think if there is a shutdown, it won't be for very long because Johnson's going to put the bill up there tomorrow with that act up there that, for that worthless bill that we were just talking about a while ago that doesn't exist, illegals voting. That is just, who, I mean, he was going to do away with it last week. Then he went and visited Donald Trump after the assassination. And guess what? He's going to bring the bill back tomorrow. What does that tell you right there? The Republicans are a party of one, and that's
Well,
Trump.
well, he took it down after the debate, and now after this assassination attempt, he's putting it up. Donald Trump is calling the
Yep.
shots, in spite of what Mike Johnson says.
Yep.
But I'll show you where Joe Biden shows up in the news again here pretty quickly. When it comes down to the shutdown, it's happened in the last year and a half, 2 years. It's happened 3 times. And each time everybody's going, oh my God, we're going to have a shutdown. Oh my God, we're going to have a shutdown. And I predicted that last minute or the last day, they are going to come up with an answer and extend it. And every time they did, this was just a bully tactic by MAGA. We're going to shove this into your face, and if you blink, we win. Well, here's the thing: Joe Biden never blinked. He played
Mm-hmm.
Kevin McCarthy. He played Mike
Mike
Johnson
Johnson.
twice. And Mike Johnson is not as formidable as Kevin McCarthy.
No.
So when we get down to that day, Joe Biden will play that motherfucker again. We got Mitch McConnell already crying and begging them not to shut the country down because he's the one smart enough to know that they are going to get decimated if they do. I
Well, they
mean,
already are.
they're going to get decimated anyway. But if they have any hope of holding on to anything, they can't shut the thing down. So those people worried about it, I just don't see it happening any more than I saw it happening the first 3 times.
Yeah, and what's coming in 2025 that people also need to remember. when when the Republicans lose the House and the Democrats keep the Senate, because I'm seeing more and more now that they were talking about Montana, that Tester losing, but they're saying now that there's other avenues because that I think it's Maryland, that girl running against Hogan, she's up
Yeah.
like 9 on him, and
No
he's like a
shit.
normal Republican.
Yeah, he's a normal Republican.
But they're also trying to tie him to the Democrats are trying to tie him to the abortion thing, I guess, because he's anti-choice, and that's exactly what being against abortion is, being anti-pro-choice. That's
Right.
exactly what it is.
Right.
But they got that the one thing that scared me the most was that not the shutdowns, because the shutdowns resolve themselves,
Yeah.
but that fiscal, what was that one that Kevin McCarthy and him worked out, that was that they kicked out. I think even Yellen was involved with telling them it was like, I guess, the debt ceiling, I guess, is what it
Right.
was.
Right. Right.
Well, that's coming due in January.
Right.
So we can't have these damn Republicans doing this shit, and Trump and president. So that's something that I would probably actually, put out there if I was a Democrat, saying, you're tired of all this shit going on. This don't happen under Democrats, and Democrats are involved.
Well,
Like,
over and above raising the debt ceiling, which the Democrats would naturally do,
yeah,
what the Democrats really need to do is get rid of the debt ceiling because
yep,
everybody else has.
yeah.
It's
The
just another
filibuster,
noise. Yeah, the
the
filibuster too.
filibuster. I heard you and Eric talking about that. What does that take to get rid of that? Does
You
it
know,
take 60 votes? Because they're going to need Republicans if that's the case.
um, that's a good question. It would be ironic that you need to be filibuster proof in order to
Yeah,
get rid of the filibuster. Um, I
because they always ask Biden, and Biden was never for it. I think Kamala would be for it, getting rid of it,
Yeah, I
because
think
Mitch
so.
McConnell's already said that they're going to get rid of it if they get elected. So maybe they don't need 60. Sounds like.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to Google that a second because to that's a good question.
Because that's something they definitely need to think of, because nothing gets done. I mean, it's like, the filibuster. Yeah, well, that'll happen when the other side gets it. Well, I mean, if you win Congress, then you have the right to pass stuff. You shouldn't be stopped. The minority party should not be able to stop stuff. That's why shit doesn't get done. That's why you have Tommy Tuberville and all those crackpots, stopping shit.
Now it says here um, you may need the 2/3 amount to get rid of. Hold on. Here's the thing. There's another thing you can do. You can change. It says a majority of 3/5 of senators duly chosen and sworn, 60 votes. If there is no more than one vacancy in the Senate, is required to for most questions. A 2/3 majority of senators present and voting is required to invoke cloture on a motion or resolution to amend the standing rules of the Senate. So they're going to need 60 votes to do it. However, they could also change the filibuster back to what it was, where it's much more difficult to deal with and use, which may be the first step, where you actually have to stand up there and talk for 3 days. It's weird now because the filibuster is a bullshit thing, archaic thing in the first place, and now it's just a rubber stamp. You don't have to do anything. To make people actually, I mean, to filibuster is to stand in front of a podium and keep talking until people get tired of you talking. Well, that takes some effort. Trust me, doing an hour a night on the podcast, that ain't fucking easy. So to have somebody stand up there for 15 hours doing this filibuster, that will make a difference. So my guess is they won't be able to get rid of the filibuster right away, but they will be able to alter the filibuster, which is at least the first good step to improving things here.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, just to not get stuff done, because I mean, you have the majority, you should be able to pass legislation. You know what I mean? If you're the Senate minority leader, you can stop a Supreme Court justice, and that's another thing. Forget about expanding the court. You got to win the Senate to get those justices passed.
Yeah.
Because you think Mitch McConnell was bad? Wait till that other guy gets up. Who was his other name? What's it? The guy from Florida you were talking about?
DeSantis?
Wait till that guy gets no, not DeSantis, the guy that's running for senator.
Rick Scott.
Like he's saying that he wants to be the, and I think also John Cornyn from Texas wants to be it. But John Cornyn's one of those guys that well, I have a problem with Trump and all this stuff, but I'll still vote for him. I mean, he's just another Mike Pence. I mean, the only reason Mike Pence got that is because I think Mike Pence got a little pissed off because they tried to kill him. Hell, I would. I mean, you're not normal if not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
how complicit and how often can you placate somebody who wants to kill you?
I just think it would be cool for Kamala to get up there and she swears in Supreme Court Justice Hillary Clinton. I think that would be great. I would love that shit because there was nobody more qualified to be president than her. And to put her back on there. And as for Merrick Garland, I think she'll keep most of the cabinet. I think she asks him to step down because, I mean, especially with the shit that's going to be coming. I mean, and there's, superseding indictments for members of Congress, maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene is acting normal. She wants to work with the Democrats now to fund the government. Maybe she sees the writing on the wall. Maybe she sees this shit coming.
Well, that's one of the things as we get closer. First of all, I was curious. We're seeing the polls going more toward Kamala now. And I still don't trust polls because I have no way of knowing where it's coming from and what the agenda is. And it's always a big fucking game. But I said one time before, as much as they're trying to make this an even match in order to make it appealing to people to continue to watch on TV, as we get closer to the election and it becomes more apparent to even the biggest idiot in the media that Kamala's going to win, just so they can be on the right side, I'm thinking you're going to see the polls going bigger for Kamala because that will be a big story and that will cause people to watch prior to the election. It's like when the media was telling Joe Biden that he needs to step aside. Do I think they wanted him to step aside because he wasn't qualified or he wasn't capable of doing it? Him stepping aside was a big story, and that's what they wanted, and that's what they got. Except they were surprised because they thought, okay, now we're going to have this open convention. It's going to be a shit show. We're going to love it. Then Kamala comes in and gets fucking all this support. So it didn't go the way everybody thought it would go.
Well, the media, all my life I heard about the liberal media. You look at the media now, I mean, they're owned by Republicans. I mean, MSNBC, I can't even, I look at MSNBC, I'll watch it in spurts with like Lawrence or whatever.
Yeah, I can't watch it as much either.
You look at CNBC, they're as bad as Fox Business. I mean, some of the stuff on there, and I think a few years ago, Jon Stewart called out, who's that guy? Jim Cramer.
Yeah, Jim Cramer, yeah.
He goes, "You're fucking with people's money here. It's not cool." And ever since he did that, I never looked at the guy the same way. And it's like it's like the media doesn't care about what's best for the country. They care about what's best for the ratings.
Right.
And I think Eric was talking last night about how Kamala, maybe I don't know if y'all really saying that go on Fox and stuff like that. I don't think she should go on Fox. I don't think she should give Hannity or Laura Ingraham the time of day.
No, absolutely.
She's above that. And I kind of disagree with you guys. I don't think she wanted a second debate, but I think they put that out there because it would make Trump not want it.
Right.
I think like if he accepted, I think she'd do it. But I think she knew that he wouldn't because she beat him so bad. And it's like there's an old picture of Trump. It's like the Olympics when you have like the all the gold, silver, and bronze and everything, and you have them all down there, and all these people are ahead of Trump, but he's back there. I won. I'm the greatest ever. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he does. And I knew, and I think she knew that was going to happen, that she would throw that out there and he wouldn't go. But if she did accept, she'd do it. I don't think there's not going to be a presidential or a VP. I don't think they're going to do it.
No, and I don't see any value in Kamala debating him again. What, just to kick his ass again? Because she will. It doesn't even matter if it was on Fox News. She will kick his ass because she's
Yeah.
smarter than he is. He can't keep anything straight. I mean, what happened in that debate, over and above Kamala Harris being as sharp as she was and how she triggered him, there was one thing that was exposed that should have been exposed in the Biden debate, but they ignored, and that is Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't keep a thought straight. He can't keep on the same topic in the same fucking sentence. Because as much as Joe Biden was slow on that debate, Donald Trump was a fucking absolute failure. But they ignored it because it was cooler to worry about Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden was slow and he was doddering, but everything he said was facts and truth. So it's what's important in a debate, and apparently these debates' performance is more important than substance.
Can you imagine the media if she would have said, "I have concept of a plan," and all I hear are these pundits are telling are saying, "Well, she's not really expressed like Scaramucci." Yeah, that's one of the guy I have a problem with.
Yeah,
He was on there and he's on with some girl that's on MSNBC in the morning. She's got some kind of podcast,
yeah,
and they were asking him like, "Well, I think what gets her in the end is that she doesn't have policies." Who the fuck are you listening to?
yeah,
She's the only one talking policies.
yeah,
Trump's talking about his crowd size. She
yeah.
knew he got that. Hell, even Joe Rogan said that shit. That, you know what I mean? It's like, well, she doesn't stand for policies. It's like they put this like bar for Trump so low, but they make it so high for her that she's talking about the business plans. Hell, you had Trump on there today saying that he's going to lower, the same party that's saying that it's communism to, try to bring down grocery prices.
Yeah.
He's going to lower your car insurance. I mean, he literally said that after he said he hated Taylor Swift. And it's like, dude, and it's like, if Trump wins, then we deserve what's going to happen to us.
I've
If
said
I
that.
mean, I don't think he's going to, but if he wins, America is over, and we did it to ourselves.
Right. I've said that before, and people have come after me about it. I said if you elect Donald Trump under these circumstances, when it's so obvious, you deserve what you fucking get. And
Yep.
and people look at that as being cold, but the fact of the matter is it is what you deserve if you're stupid enough to walk into this thing. I mean, um, when I listen to Republicans now saying, well, Donald Trump's just being Donald Trump, I'm not MAGA, I'm not a racist, I beg to differ. Every Republican that votes for the things Republicans vote for, those that either support Donald Trump or don't push back against him, as far as I'm concerned, they are racist. As far as I'm concerned, they are MAGA. They are accessories after the fact, and they're just as fucking guilty.
I don't understand. There was a lot of shit that happened before. The Access Hollywood tape should have been.
Oh,
Him
yeah.
making fun of the disabled person should have been. Him paying off Stormy Daniels should have been. But when I find out somebody's still a Trump voter after January 6th,
Yeah.
and I see some law enforcement agencies supporting him, it's like every week is something else. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not even talking about the shit that happened at the Arlington. Was it Arlington Cemetery?
Yeah.
I mean, my
Yeah.
God, it's like every week it's something fucking else, and it's like I think that's going to play into it too. Is people were tired. People are tired of this shit. I mean, look at even these assassination attempts. People don't want that shit. They don't want. I mean, everywhere he goes, he brings shit with him, and that's just more shit that follows him.
And some people say that it was staged and it was to uh, get sympathy, but it's not working because if he's getting sympathy, he's getting it from the base. He's getting it
Yeah.
from the base, and these people are already going to vote for him. You go to anybody else that wasn't going to vote for Donald Trump, whether it be the first one or the second one, they all say the same shit. It's staged. Now, whether it's staged or not, whether that's true or not, makes no difference. That's what people believe. So they aren't feeling any sympathy for Donald Trump. They're thinking he's a fucking fool.
Well, I don't know if it was staged or not, but I I don't know if it's staged or not. But if it comes out years later, it was.
Oh
It's
shit.
it's kind of like it's kind of like Generation X here. Who was the big band in Generation X? It was Nirvana and Kurt Cobain.
Right.
And I remember the day he died, and I remember people being shocked. I'm going, really? I mean, how many? He got picked up on a couple suicide attempts. He had to be admitted. When he finally did it, that shocks you.
Yeah.
I mean, God rest his soul if you believe in that kind of thing. But I mean, it's like in the Republicans and people that are like they're surprised of the shit that Trump does. The stuff in Arlington Cemetery that didn't freaking surprise me.
No,
Look what he said about John McCain.
yeah.
I mean, he said that he said in a speech that John McCain is looking up from hell at him.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, and I've always tried to like talk to people about this kind of stuff, but I've given up on that. I mean, if you're still and if you're still undecided, and one of your maybe it was Will, you and one of your guests said that if you're undecided, you're MAGA
Yeah.
because there's
Exactly.
enough shit going on right now. If you haven't made up your mind yet, then you're not voting for Kamala.
If you're
You're trying to
undecided,
find an excuse to vote for Trump.
yeah, if you're undecided at this point, you are either MAGA or you shouldn't be allowed to live home alone. You need a caretaker because you're dumb as
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
In all seriousness, I mean,
yeah.
you said after January 6th, for me, if you voted for Trump in 2020 and you saw what you saw for 4 years,
Yeah,
come
true.
on, come on. It's not a hard choice. It's not fucking brain surgery. And all these Republicans that stood by him come November 5th, and time is short. We're under 2 months. When that November 5th hits and he gets destroyed, what are all these people that are standing by Donald Trump going to do now? Because they know he's going to get decimated by the courts and by the media. He's not. I've said this to people before, and I've noticed it when I was working. You can have you can have a guy that works in your shop or whatever it is, and he's the top shelf guy, and he's the boss, and he's highly respected, and everybody bends to his needs and thinks he's the greatest guy. The moment he's gone, the moment he retires, he becomes the butt of everybody's jokes. It's just a fucking fact. He can't
Oh yeah.
do anything to me anymore. Now let's pile on, and that's what's going to happen to Donald Trump.
Well, I think it's already kind of happening to him
Yeah,
because I know people that vote for him, and somebody asked me when I was so elated when Dick Cheney endorsed him. I told a friend of mine that that likes Trump and stuff. It's Texas. There are a lot of them around.
yeah,
I go, you realize that Darth Vader isn't going to vote for Jabba the Hutt?
yeah,
And I go, and he looked at me, and I go, yeah, Darth Vader, who the Democrats have vilified, and rightfully so, because the guy was a POS,
yeah,
Dick Cheney. But you see Dick Cheney come out there. Dick Cheney, and in some ways you got to respect Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney, I know I'm going to get blowback on this, but hear me out. Dick Cheney supported gay marriage before a lot of other Democrats did. It was like Dick Cheney and I think Biden supported gay marriage.
right.
Dick Cheney never supported Trump. So everybody, when Dick Cheney came out there and looked, and said this, I can't vote for him. I don't agree with her, but I'm going to vote for Kamala. George W. Bush didn't come out in 2020. He came out with Clinton and Obama and did those commercials with the three presidents, which was pretty cool. But he never endorsed anybody. His mom did. His mom said, "Any woman that votes for Trump, I don't get."
Yeah,
That just shows you, people. And Bush gets a lot of shit for letting Cheney run the administration. Bush not endorsing anybody, but Cheney endorsing anybody. It shows you who had the balls in that administration who did it. And George
absolutely.
Bush, I think it would help him out a little bit if he did it. but obviously, you don't care,
No,
and
he
and
doesn't.
that's and that's sad. That's really sad.
Well, I never thought George Bush was an incredibly bright guy. I don't think he was a horrible guy. I think anything that happened
He
bad
was a
was
puppet.
probably Dick Cheney. You know, the thing about Dick Cheney, though, he is Satan. And people say,
Hey,
oh,
hey, hey, Satan ain't that bad now. Come on, Satan was the angel of light at one time.
yeah.
You're giving Satan a bad rep there, Mike.
Well, that's probably true. But what you have to understand about Dick Cheney, there may be an agenda to this whole thing.
Could
First
be
of all, he did support gay marriage. But why did he support gay marriage?
his
Because he
daughter.
has an
His daughter.
LGBTQ daughter. Liz Cheney didn't support gay marriage either until
True.
his sister
True.
became LGBTQ, came out of the closet. But think about this angle. Donald Trump wins, the Republican Party continues to burn for the next 4 years. It's burning now. It's pretty much done.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump is beaten, somebody's going to have to rebuild and lead the new Republican Party. And who's that going to be? Probably Liz Cheney. So the Cheneys have some money on the table if Donald
True.
Trump loses. Liz Cheney's going to be the one person who tries to bring back this conservative movement. She's still going to have problems because we have all these young people coming and they don't like Donald Trump. They don't like the fucking conservatives. But this may be an angle for him to give his daughter some power. And
Yeah.
I got to be honest too. Maybe he does see that Donald Trump is a ruination of democracy, and he wants to avoid that too. I got to give him that.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it too is that Democrats need to, they need to get shit done to keep the if when they win both houses in the presidency, or they'll be
Absolutely.
voted out too, because you're going to have Republicans are going to have to go somewhere. And you have a lot of the Lincoln Project, you have a lot of the Rick Wilsons, a lot of those people that they're voting and they're behind Kamala now. But if she starts doing stuff, a lot of I saw something they said that Democrats think that she'll go more left when she gets in power, which she probably will,
Yeah.
because she's probably a little bit more left than Biden because she's younger. I have no problem with that because I'm done with the right wing stuff because the Republican Party has moved so far to the right that anybody to the left of that, it's normal. And a lot of the and with AI coming out, you're going to have some kind of guaranteed income. We're
Yeah.
going there. Even Elon Musk has said that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be no jobs, and
Right.
that's what they're already trying to replace teachers. They're already replacing cashiers. I mean,
Right.
it's getting there.
Right.
So you're going to have a progressive agenda to keep people from starving to death.
Right. Right.
And
Well.
but you're going to have that other side too that may not agree with that, and that's when that in 2028 when she's running again, she may not have all that support. That's why they need to sew it up and make that progressive agenda, which is a normal agenda if you ask me. Education, taking care of the homeless,
Yeah.
taking care of the less fortunate, not the big businesses.
I think what people have to prepare for too is when you see the Lincoln Project, Rick Wilson, and all these Republicans that are supporting Kamala Harris and not supporting Donald Trump. When Kamala Harris becomes president and Donald Trump is gone, look for those guys or those people to try to build a new Republican Party. They're not
Oh, they
going to
will.
stick with Kamala because they don't, they got a bad taste in the mouth that's anything that's liberal. But they see the writing on the wall and all these people. And I'm not saying they're bad people for it or it's
No,
unexpected.
they have different
Uh,
beliefs.
they have different beliefs. So they're wrong, but they do have different beliefs. And so when it's done and Donald Trump is finally gone, we appreciate the efforts they put in, but if you think they're going to be still on the side of Kamala, no, they're not going to be. And that's why when people say, "Oh, Liz Cheney's so great," no, she's not. They say,
I'd
"Well,
never
she
vote for her.
she stood up to Donald Trump. She maintained
Voted
her
for her.
credibility." Isn't that the very least we should expect out of our representatives? That you're
Yep.
credible and have some integrity? She didn't do anything special here. She was just one of the few that did her job.
I will. I want to recommend something because I mean, you probably got in your audience. You probably got people that were ex-Republicans like me that may not be. They're going to vote for Kamala, but not exactly thrilled with her agenda for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't get that because the way I look at things a lot differently, and I did a lot of reading. The Lincoln Project, one of the guys that was part of that with Rick Wilson, his name is Stuart Stevens,
Mm-hmm.
and he wrote
Guy
a
with a
book.
hat.
Yeah, he wrote a book called "It Was All a Lie," about how the Republican and his shit he grew up with was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I heard a podcast, a Lincoln Project, talking about him, and they were talking about like what happens after Kamala wins and Trump's gone. He goes, "Do a lot of Republicans go back to being Republicans, or they're going to start billing over?" And he said something, and I identify with him even more when he goes, "Well, Stewart, he's a Democrat now because they
True.
had gone so far to the left, to the right, that it's alienated them, and the Republicans have become so extreme that they've made a lot of new Democrats, and I'm one of them, and
Well,
I'm that Republican that they're never going to get back, ex-Republican.
but there is going to be a second party, one way or
Yes,
another.
there has to be.
And there has to be in order to run the democracy, and it
I
will
agree.
be something. And I don't think it'll resemble the old Republican Party. It
It can't.
can't because of the demographics we have with young people. I think it's going to be more just right of center, or maybe the party is those people that are right of center and just left of center, and then you have the progressives. That could be the way it is. I mean, that would be the smart way to do it, because to be in the center is really where the winning point is ultimately. I don't know what it's going to be like with the young people, but the progressives are going to go a little far left too, and that's going to turn some people off.
Yeah.
If your only choice is far left, that's going to give people problems. So if the Republicans are smart, they're going to move closer to center and try to rebuild. But in order to do that, that's going to take fucking time to get credibility, to get people to trust them. We could be after 2028, 2032 before they're a factor.
Well, that's something that neither one of us will accuse Republicans of being smart.
No, they
What I
clearly
think is
aren't.
going to happen, and speaking as an ex-Republican, I think the Republicans is going to be, you're going to have that, right of center or whatever they call it. But you're also going to have all these evangelicals that have nowhere to go, these
Yeah.
MAGA people that have nowhere to go. And a lot of people think that Trump's only like MAGA are boomers. They're not. There's a lot of young dipshits too out there,
Yeah.
Generation X of them. And
Yep.
there's probably a lot of, millennials that are, MAGA too. Those got to go somewhere. And I think why the progressives and Democrats, they seem more together and more unified. You're going to have that moderate Republican, and you're going to have the far right one.
Yeah.
And it could happen to the Democrats too, because a lot of the younger people are more progressive. But I think with Biden gone, I think that kind of helps out the progressives more. But I think you're going to have especially if they get some of these stuff passed with, get Roe versus Wade back, maybe improve on it, hold these Supreme Court and these justices, just because you got a lifetime appointment, accountable, the important shit, not give tax breaks to the wealthy, make the Amazons, the NBCs, make them pay taxes like me and you.
Yeah.
The Democrats will be winning for a while, but I think there's a civil war in the Republicans. And I think Trump's demise, it's not going to, it'll demise, Trumpism will live on after Trump. And
Yeah.
that's what's going to split the Republicans up. I think that, being a voter on both sides, I see that other side that there are these Republicans that could never vote for a Democrat, not, no matter what. So
Right.
you're going to have that consistency too, and they got to go somewhere.
Well, then do we get three parties? Do we get the radical right, the center, and then the progressive left? Or do we get
What they
four
used to
parties?
call it the Bull Moose Party when
Right.
Teddy Roosevelt and Taft ran against each other. I think that's what the Republicans are going to be. But the Democrats need to like really do that FDR thing. I mean, the Republicans under Trump and stuff, they've just done away with so many. What was it that 2025 they wanted to do away with the National Hurricane Center? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
really? So it's like, oh, there's going to rain. No, that's a hurricane, motherfucker. I mean, come on.
Well, and if like you're saying, and I've said this too, if the Democrats are fortunate enough to get the presidency, the House, and the Senate, they got to make hay while the sun shines. And if they
Yep.
do, they will ensure their own stability and continuing to be able to do what they do. They can't get lazy because they want it all. They've got to still put in the work and accomplish a lot of things. So by 2028 and 2032, that there's no question that Democrats are the way to go. Because, you know, we've listened to the Republicans with the trickle down theory. It's been 45 years. It hasn't worked.
Nope.
Joe Biden kind of opened Pandora's box by feeding the middle class. And guess what? The economy got better and we all had better lives. So, this bullshit that the Republicans have been telling us, oh, we can't afford to help the middle class, that's been debunked. And now we know that if money is used to cultivate the middle class, that it's good for the country. It's going to be hard for them to deny that.
And the thing about it is that what have we heard for all these years? Oh, this is the only four people we got, especially like that with Biden and Trump, which, but people like Kamala and they liked him. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, how could you not?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to go hang out with JD Vance where, I don't know, where he even that poor lady making the sandwiches or whatever? And it's like I saw a meme and it's a guy, he's peeing right in the stall. And all these stalls are available, but this guy walks in and he goes right next to the guy peeing. You know how it always is like, motherfucker, there's like a parking place. There's other places to park.
Yeah.
But no, he has to get in the stall right next to you. And he goes to the guy, hi, I'm JD Vance. How long have you been peeing? I mean, it's just, he's so fucking awkward
Yeah, he
that,
is.
I mean, it's like, I've never gotten to think about Trump either. Well, he's charismatic. He's charismatic as a Brillo pad.
He's loud, is what he is.
Yeah, it's like he's not. And it's like the media, well, he appeared to say this. No, he said it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like he probably doesn't want to do a debate because, he may say stuff to Kamala that, he may say some stuff there that may fall out of his mouth because that's the way he talks.
Yeah. The other
He
re-
may, and he is like, I don't get it. I just, they make excuses for him. They want it to be close. It's not going to be close. And
no.
I just wish the election was like tomorrow because it's like I wake up and I know a lot of people are like that. I look at a poll and it kind of brings me down. I'm like, look what you're reading though, Jay.
Yeah.
Stay positive because turn off corporate media and turn on the rational boomer. That's what you got to
Right.
do.
Well, and I've said before, when this is all said and done, assuming it's going to happen the way I say it's going to happen, and I firmly believe it, we need to call out the press. If I'm sitting here and you're sitting there and we say it's going to be a decisive win, maybe even a landslide, and it is, somebody needs to ask the question of the media, how come these two fucking white clowns knew and you didn't? You got a lot of money, you got a lot of resources, you got a lot of researchers, but this dumb fuck sitting in his living room or you in your bedroom, we fucking knew and they didn't.
Well, it's like I tell you that thing about when the 2022 red wave was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sweating it. I was like, shit. And I this is what I told myself. Well, fucking Jason, you live in Texas. You're already in the fucking cesspool.
Yeah. How
It
much
won't
worse
change
can
for
it get?
you. And it's like all the other countries. I was trying to like rationalize. And then you came across my For You page and I'm like, hey, I like it. Like, okay. And I started watching you more and more. I go, hey, listen to this guy and stuff like that. And it was like, oh shit. And then it's like, and I actually tell you there's something on there. I'm on Facebook and I try to be pretty positive about stuff. I think when I was younger, I was pretty Debbie Downer, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I got to help Mike, listening to you and, the Boomer Brigade, and, Old Soul and Eric, and Will, the like-minded people you get around you. And because I've been friends with Republicans and we end up having a parting of the ways because they end up saying something and I don't keep my mouth shut. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but I like to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So must make a good guest.
Yeah.
But there was a lady that she actually lives here in San Antonio, and she's a mutual friend of mine on Facebook. These people I've never met before. Well, she texted me or messaged me through Messenger saying, talk me down. Got to do something to, what's going on. So lo and behold, our last episode we did is like, well, you see these two handsome men up here, exposing their, their wisdom to you. So I sent her the link of us on YouTube, the last show we did, and
Yeah.
it made her day. She goes, "Thank you so much." So got you another listener. I'll be expecting the check to come in next week.
I appreciate
So
it. I
not the
appreciate it.
George Soros money, but that's what I
Sure.
do. I mean, I people are like, "How are you so positive about this?" And you know what? Fuck it. I'm positive. I think she's going to win. If she doesn't, it's like old So said. We're not going to hightail and leave and go some other fucking country. We're
No,
going to stay here and fight. And she was right when she said that, because you had a listener that said, "Oh, I'm going to leave or whatever." No, you stay and fight.
don't be a
And if
pussy. Fight.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well,
So
I tell people, they say, well, how can you be so positive about it? And I said, it's not that I know any more than anybody else. I just look at it and I throw out things that aren't valuable to me. Like, first of all, emotions. Take those out of the way. Media bullshit. Take that out of the way. The political bullshit and lies. Take that out of the way. Just look at the facts. And the way I explain the election is you've got the worst candidate in the history of this country, and he's got felony convictions, he's got sexual assault, he's got stealing classified documents, mounting insurrection. And on the other side, you have maybe the most popular presidential candidate in history, who's growing in support, who has the enthusiasm, who's raised 3 times as much as Donald Trump.
over a billion.
Now, when you just take those two facts, is it hard to make the decision as to what's going to happen? It's the
Plus, it's
emotions and the bullshit that fucking clouds your minds.
plus it's not like he's reaching out to other voters. It's like
Oh, he's
it's like
horrible ground game.
what did he say? Like, oh well, like like he didn't need Nikki Haley voters and all this shit like that. I mean, that's what the media messes up on. It's like, Biden, yeah, he won all his primaries. Trump didn't like
No,
win like Biden did. You had that guy that was like up in Minnesota, um, that guy that was trying to primary Biden or whatever. That guy
yeah,
that was,
yeah,
they had him at the
Dean,
DNC, and yeah, they had him at the DNC, and they're like, well, see, I was right. I'm like, fuck off, dude.
yeah,
And it's like, it's like people are underestimating how unpopular Trump is.
yeah,
And you talk about Kamala being popular. I mean, she hit a home run when she got Tim,
yeah. She
because
did.
I mean, and she's from California, so she's one of them libtards in California. But you notice the Tim Waltz thing, kind of, they don't talk about that. She can talk about owning a gun. She can talk about doing this stuff, because yeah, a lot of people are, California is all this stuff, and evidently Kamala destroyed San Francisco. I thought Nancy Pelosi did that myself,
Yeah, I don't know who it
but
was.
she destroyed it enough to where I donated to her campaign.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. Well, Jace, we're going to wrap things up. We went long again, but like I say, it's my show. We'll go as long as I fucking want, or as long as you want.
I had a good
Lo-
time.
I always have a good time. It's always a pleasure to have somebody on and be able to interact. That's why I do the lives too, because I need somebody to interact. Doing the lone shows, it's not hard. It's just boring to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, well, Jace,
You're gonna
thank
have
you.
another 3-hour email show coming up though.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm trying to figure out how to do that because I do have to do the emails too. I did an extra show last time. That was only a
That
half
was great.
hour.
You had, like, it was in 2 days, because I saw it come up, like, oh cool. I think it was with the old soul. Then you had another one come up. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, I get twice as much boomer in one day. All right.
Yeah. There's some people that like that and others that go, fuck, give it a rest. Like my wife or my kids, even my
Yeah,
granddaughter.
I want to
Grandpa's
thank
great for a little while.
Garage Door Jeff. He gave me a shout out on
Nice.
one of the emails. He needs to come on the show, Jeff. Right? Is
I've
it Garage Door Jeff? Right?
Garage Door Jeff. Yeah.
You need to come on the show, Jeff.
I've said
Come on
that
the
on the
show,
show.
man. Come on, because
It's
we know
very,
you're listening right now.
yeah, we know you're listening. And the fact of the matter is every time I've said it, he comes back with a email, but never mentions that. Garage door Jeff,
It's
don't
not
be a.
hard, man. It's not hard. And knowing by your emails, I think you'd make a great guest.
I think so too. And just Jeff, I'm just saying, don't be a PAB. I won't say the full word out of respect for I think he's older than I am, so I got to have a little. Maybe he's not. Anyway, Jace, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
For those listening, I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Old Soul should be on tomorrow if everything works out. So have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.